Hey everyone, it's Flying Kraken here, and man, Voyage to the Sunken City is just around the corner. The theory crafting streams have already ended, and decks are flying everywhere of what to play on day one. Well, I've been doing some theory crafting of my own, and I've composed a bunch of Druid deck lists I think that you could bring day one of the expansion this Tuesday and succeed with. Now, for a little bit of warning, these lists are probably not 100% tuned or anything like that. We haven't even played with the cards, but these are the initial lists that I will be testing out myself on stream this upcoming Tuesday, and I hope you try them out too. The first list is something I'm super excited for. The moment they announced this set, they announced Colossal minions, Colossal creatures in the sea. That is just exactly what Druid wants and what a Kraken wants. And this is a little theory craft I have here. It's a Colossal Druid deck, and there's some cards in Druid. It's going to be a common theme throughout this video, like Aquatic Form. That's going to be in every Druid list. I think Aquatic Form. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. This is the best card Druid got this expansion. The card is amazing. It's just a free tracking that you can get immediately. It's a little bit better than tracking because it's 0 mana and all that kind of stuff. And I just think that it's an amazing card for what Druid wants to do and gives it a little bit of reach with finding cards they need. For the rest of the deck, though, let's get to the juicy stuff, though. We're adding Dozing Kelp Keeper to this big list to help with the early game. We can ramp and kill things and get a free 4/4. It has Rush to help us deal with things. We get Seaweed Strike. We have enough Nagas in our deck that I believe that we will be able to efficiently get the double removal as we'll use it. It'll kill something with the 4 damage, and then we can hit something with our face to keep alive and all that kind of stuff. We also have things like Green Thumb Gardener, Kolak, Hedra the Heretic, Miracle Growth for the big side of the deck. These things will draw us cards, make a massive boards, protect us, play things on the board, all kinds of stuff like that. And on the other side, on the neutral side, we have a bunch of neutrals, new neutrals. Just the whole right side here are new cards we have not been able to play with. Sir Finley is going to help us get Colossal minions from the bottom of our deck from Ambassador Phelan. Queen Azara is going to either give us a Colossal minion, draw us cards. If we have a bunch of spells, we can like burst them down. We can double up on spells, stuff like that. Zola is going to be able to get us extra copies of minions that we want. Crush Claw Enforcer is going to get us other Nagas in the deck that we want, like Green Thumb Gardener, Queen Ashara, Zola, stuff like that. Hedra is also a Naga. And Brand's going to double up on these effects. So Brand can double up on the Ambassador Phelan, double up on the Queen Ashara, double up on the Crush Claw, double up on the Zola, stuff like that. And I just think this deck has a lot of potential to just create these massive boards. And sure, there's a little bit of RNG with the Colossals that you get and the cards you may get from Queen Ashara, but I'm very excited for this deck, and I hope y'all are too. Hey guys, before we move on to the next Druid decks, I'd like to go ahead and tell y'all that I appreciate the support that y'all give the channel. And if you haven't already, you click that like button, bonk that subscribe button you see at the bottom of the screen, and it would really help out the channel if you would do that. Now moving on to the next Druid decks, I have 2 giant Druid lists. Now Ramp Druid is something I love, but we lost Overgrowth. Overgrowth has been a staple of Ramp Druid for the past 2 years. And moving forward, they buff Nourish. It's down to 5 mana, and we are stuck with Wild Growth, Nourish, and Guff. Will that be enough? I hope so. Not really sure. We'll have to see here. We also got Escape Mana Saber added to the core set, which is a card that could sneakily get into Ramp Druid as a way to just fill out turns. A lot of these 2 decks aren't very different. They have a lot of the same cards: Aquatic Form, Earthen Scales, Nourish, Wild Growth, Flipper Friends, stuff like that. A lot of the same cards, but the difference is in the first deck, I want to try out Sea Giants. I think Sea Giants are a weird thing that you might be able to do with the way that Ramp Druid could look going forward with Flipper Friends and Scale of Onyxia. You put a lot of things on the board to try and regain the board, and there's going to be a time where you're going to be able to play like Flipper Friends or Scales of Onyxia to clear the board, and it's going to put a bunch of minions on the board for yourself, making Sea Giant drop drastically low if your opponent also has a board. Now I think that is something that could very possibly happen. The meta looks like it could be going towards a very board-based centric decks going forward with the mech decks and the Naga decks and all that kind of stuff. So I think that is a very clean possibility that you could have going forward. As for the second version of the deck, if you're facing a lot of decks that don't just spread the board out with minions, you can take out the Sea Giants and put in basically whatever you want. But I think Queen Ashara and Raid Boss and Nixie are two good additions to ramp decks. Raid Boss has already shown us that she can take back a board right away, filling up your board also. Very annoying to deal with. And Queen Ashara, I think that she could be a very vital asset to a lot of decks going forward in the standard. And she can make a Colossal minion, draw you cards, make a weapon that can kill your opponent, double copy spells, stuff like that. I think it could really, really be a big deal. And which version of this deck you play depends on what you're facing a lot of times. And I think that the ramp deck can evolve. There's going to be a lot of changes to the deck probably, but this is the initial version that I think we're going to start with. I think that Green Thumb Gardener is basically like a free 5/5. Basically, a lot of times you have a ton of cards in your deck. I can't stop talking about Hedra. Hedra is going to be a main staple to big Druid decks for a while. You have a bunch of big spells. Guff is going to get you there a lot of times. And Jerry Ray Carpenter is going to draw you cards while also making 1 5-mana spell, two 5-mana spells, which is going to double up for Hedra in the future. And I think this is the best deck that you're going to be able to use Naga Giant for. Druid is going to use Naga Giant very well, I think, going forward. Alright, time to talk about everybody's favorite Druid archetype, Aggro Beast Druid. Yes, you heard sarcasm in that. This is not everybody's favorite Druid deck out there. It is kind of bland this past couple of seasons, and it's been played nonstop. It's arguably the best deck currently before the set launches. But will it survive Arbor Up leaving the format? I think so. And I think that not only will it survive, I think you're going to have two different forms of the archetype surviving. One being based around the new epic card for Druid, Bottomfeeder, which is a 1/3 with Death Rattle that puts on the bottom of your deck, and you can keep doing that as long as you keep playing. And it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It gets +2/+2 every time it dies, and it gets put on the bottom of your deck. So I think with that in mind, it has this inevitability that the control decks and mid-range decks, grindy decks, are just not going to like this card. And it's going to give Aggro Druid a card that can just eventually outbeat their opponent value-wise. With that in mind, I think you can build your deck a little bit differently. I think you can run things like Wildheart Guff in your deck, Sir Finley's Sea Guide, as you see on the screen, cards that can draw you more cards, get cards from the bottom of your deck to get more bottom feeders. You have composting like every other aggro druid out there that draw a ton of cards. And the rest of the package, you have Jerry Rig, Moonlit Guidance, Stormgrove Sentries, Oracle Valoon, all the cards you know, love, and or hate to supply Bottomfeeder with enough food to feed it from the bottom of your deck. And the second deck that you see on the screen there is a more traditional aggro druid, like one you might see on ladder right now, but a little bit different. We get Sir Finley Murgleton now in aggro decks with this new set. He is in the core set along with the other adventurers, and if people don't remember him, he was a house in aggro decks in the day. He can change your hero power from a crappy druid hero power to a draw warlock 1, or a hunter do damage to the face 1, or even paladin making a dude on the board for composting and other things like that and buffs. I think this is a really good addition to aggro decks going forward. Not only that, you have a deck that's going wide versus a format that also might be going wide and being more board based. So Sea Giant is going to get played for free a lot in this upcoming format, I think. And just like every other deck you've seen in Druid, we're running Aquatic Form and Flipper Friends. These two cards seem incredible, whether it's being used for removal or filling the board full of otters. You have your normal Vibrant Squirrel stuff, Druid of the Reef, composting. The same stuff I mentioned before, not to repeat myself, but I hate to tell people, but Aggro Druid might not be going anywhere. Unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, The last Druid deck, but definitely not the least, that we're going to talk about today is Quest Druid. Now, Quest Druid is a deck that has gone back and forth between people saying it's a good deck, bad deck, top tier, no tier, untiered, whatever you may think. But I think that the Naga package could give it some legs going forward, maybe make it playable going forward. Because you say, well, we lost Moontouch aim. Like, how are we going to keep getting enough power on our hero to complete the quest. Well, we got a new card in Seaweed Strike, which if you played a Naga while it was in your hand, it not only deals 4 damage to a minion, but it gives your hero +4 attack. So with that replacing Moontouch Amulet, that means we have to run a certain amount of Nagas. Now, how many Nagas that is, I'm not really sure, but we're running ones in this list right here that you've already seen, like Dozing Kelpkeeper, Zola, Crush Claw Enforcer, Queen Ashara, and a new one, School Teacher. School Teacher also creates a Naga in your hand that casts a spell 3 or less that you discover, so like a mini lackey. The top end of this deck, I'm not completely sure on what you run. You're running 4 4-drops and 2 5-drops. You may have to choose between Queen Ashara or Guff because the fact that you're running Capture Coldtooth Mine, and a lot of times you want to click highest cost card to guarantee Guff, but now it's going to be a coin flip between Queen Ashara and Wellheart Guff. That'll be something we're going to have to test out Tuesday, but I'm really excited for this deck. I think it has a lot of potential. Bronzebeard is going to allow the quest completion Guff to deal 16. Like, we don't have Solar Eclipse anymore, so we can't double cards. We do still run Mark of the Spike Shield, but only one right now to gain another copy of Guff. And we run Zola as basically the other copy of Mark of the Spike Shell to kind of give it a little split, a little bit more flexibility. She's also a Naga. And yeah, that's the last Druid deck we have for the day, and I'm really excited. Well, everyone, that concludes my Voyage to the Sunken City Druid deck theory crafting video. I can't wait for the new set. Comes out this Tuesday, April 12th, probably around noon Central Time, and I just can't wait to get my hands on new cards. And if you found a deck that you like today and you want to play it on day 1 of the expansion, I will have every deck code in the description of this video, so go check that out. And if you're looking to see these decks live in action before you play them, I will be playing all these decks live on launch day, 6 p.m. Central. My Twitch channel and my Twitter are in the description for this video also. Happy diving, guys.